Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. Yeah, I finally figured out how to make my own window smaller, but more importantly, I would like to welcome you back to Mortal May, and to my fifth video within this ad hoc series, how I would remake MK5, or as it is perhaps more well known, uh, MK Deadly Alliance. Yeah, the fifth game is where Mortal Kombat decided, okay, we're no longer numbering our sequels, we're naming them instead. And and this series is has roughly seen me try to uh, recreate or reconstruct the original Mortal Kombat game series, or rather the first timeline, as I've noticed the community call it, but in such a way as to make it more appropriate to a modern audience, um, which also includes adapting or including some characters within it that only actually appeared in the second timeline. And I have already done so for the first four games. Now I'm looking into the and now I'm looking into how I would do that with the fifth one. So as such, a lot of what I will be saying here, as is built upon what I've talked about in a variety of in the previous videos. I suggest you look up the rest of Mortal May before you get into before you actually get into this video. It's gonna be a little bit of a hassle, but trust me, it's worth it. Anyway, moving ahead, let's actually get into this. Let's actually get into the story that I have in mind for this game. And over the course of this video, I will be presenting some characters, but I won't be presenting the full roster that I have in mind. Only the characters that I think will be, are going to be directly and deliberately meaningful to the story, to the primary story of the game. Other characters could have their own narratives, but that is, something best addressed if and when such a remake actually gets off its feet. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. And unlike the previous games, I actually want to start by looking at the villains of the piece and what exactly they will be doing. And the villains of the piece, just like in the original Deadly Alliance game, are Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, both of whom have been to some extent allied to the first big bad of Mortal Kombat, Shao Kahn, and both have also either allied or entered the graces of the previous big bad, Shinnok. Now these two guys are on their own, trying to execute their own plans. And in order to do so, they travel to various parts of the Mortal Kombat verse in order to turn it around, such that some things go their favor. Their first order of business, if I'm not mistaken, is Chaos Realm, where they help Kentaro, who happens to be in Chaos Realm because that is currently undergoing its a civil war, and they are helping Kentaro basically take over and make sure that everyone else is fighting to be the one to oppose him. And while they are there, I imagine they would potentially receive the help from Kano, Cabal, and maybe other Black Dragon members who have been able who will have made their way there. Maybe serving as some kind of a Varangian guard, or a foreign bodyguard unit, so to speak, for Kentaro himself, and leaving him in charge while the rest of the while the rest of the named characters who are currently in Chaos Realm are left dueling for scraps. And I think it would be interesting if they decide to take these scraps from from other places, become more of an expansion, and try to make Chaos Realm an expansionist force. Why would that benefit Shang Tsung and Quan Chi? Well, keep in mind that both of these guys to some extent have power over souls, but also their powers require other people's require other people's death, so to speak. They require that people they require that people place themselves in harm's way. So if they create scenarios in which people get put in harm's way, they can directly benefit from that. Moving ahead, their next order of business would be, hmm, oh yeah, would actually be Outworld, where I imagine they would help Ermac and Vora potentially potentially not take over Outworld, but cause a little bit of disruption to Kotal Khan's regime. Maybe lead some insurgency troops. It'll potentially be a pretty tough break for them to actually overthrow Kotal Khan, because keep in mind the previous game saw him overthrow Molina Khan and the remnants of Shao Kahn's regime, and he did that with a pretty sizable grassroots backing. So I imagine so therefore I imagine that insurgency is basically the best they're gonna get. Maybe there'll be several insurgencies, because remember what I said about those other factions in Chaos Realm that would be that would be released towards the outside of Chaos Realm. Outworld is potentially a place where they could try to wreak their own where they could try to wreak havoc. And then, oh yeah, another point of interest for them is Earthrealm, and where we see them actually, and where we, however, we don't see them directly interact with Earthrealm, not at first. Instead, we see uh, Liu Kang and Kung Lao talk about the, talk about what's been happening since Shinnok. Quick reminder: they're both members of the White Lotus Secret Society. Liu Kang was just proclaimed Grand Master of that society, because because he was able to defeat Shinnok in single combat. That, however, led to Shinnok's position among the Elder Gods being left empty. More on that later. And I think it makes sense for him to uh, call up Kung Lao as his bodyguard slash personal assistant, whatever have you. And these two would be confronted by Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, and I imagine there potentially being a battle that would rage between these two parties. Uh, one that I don't rule out Shang Tsung and Quan Chi potentially winning. While, however, more importantly, what happens during this conversation, this 2-on-2, is that the rest of the White Lotus actually gets overtaken by by various agents or various forces that they have that the Deadly Alliance, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, will have been able to activate. And also I imagine within this 2-on-2, Kung Lao might manage to escape, but Liu Kang I think would be either captured or killed, which in turn leaves Kung Lao to be the one to sound the alarm, tell the rest of their allies that the White Lotus has fallen, and that there is a new threat against Earthrealm. And he does so with Kung Lao activating, or calling up Fujin. Fujin who becomes the protector of Earthrealm after Raiden will have been called up to take over Shinnok's position in the among the Elder Gods. So yeah, yeah, Raiden ascends among the Elder Gods. I think that's a great it's a pretty good position for him to be in, and he immediately finds that out, and decides to call up their other Earthrealm allies, starting with Sonya Blade, because if you'll keep in mind, in previous iterations of the series, I said that Sonya Blade will have kickstarted the special forces, or rather a home realm defense initiative. HDI, huh? And so anyway, as usual, have kickstarted the HDI in order to make sure that the official military still has some way of responding to threats that are not native to Earth, that come from these realms. And as soon as Sonya finds out that, oh, this thing has happened, she'll I see her I see her activating the rest of the apparatus, which means that most of the Earth-based good guys would would also jump into this fight. Among them being Johnny Cage, because yeah, he would still be. I very much imagine him still being around, and I do very much want to see them. I very much want to see Sonya and Johnny like banter, having him being the guy who like cracks jokes and is being the guy who cracks jokes, is jovial and stuff like that, and her being like the stoic counterpart. I think these two would make for a very interesting and very enjoyable comedy duo. And perhaps more noteworthy, Scorpion. Why Scorpion? Well, if you'll remember, the very reason he became a revenant is so that he would be able to take his revenge on the people who killed his family. And uh, and over the course of this game series, this game series has already revealed that the person who killed his family is Quan Chi. Quan Chi, who also made him a revenant, who also gave him the power, the power to avenge his family, and now he wants to use that power against Quan Chi himself. However, they don't go directly to confront that. They don't go directly to confront that alliance already, because from what they've heard, they've already caused some major damage that will come back to haunt them. So instead, they decide to go to the Order Realm, which, if you'll recall, I actually mentioned in the previous video. And once our characters reach Overrealm, there are two people who I think they would encounter, or that I want to mention them encountering. That being Shujinko, who I imagine would be the leader of some kind of protection force for Order Realm, and his lieutenant Shiva. Yep. And I also imagine potentially Mataro, or maybe some other more monstrous characters who have been excluded from this from this franchise so far, also also potentially being there. And there could potentially be some kind of a dispute among the forces of Order Realm with regards to what their role within the within the six realms ought to be, and whether the protections that they have put in place would actually suffice, or whether they should not, in fact, take a more preemptive approach towards threat, not towards threat mitigation. That doesn't necessarily mean strength projection, aka U.S. foreign policy. That could also mean things like but that could mean more like diplomatic overtures and cooperation agreements. aka the EU approach to foreign policy. Yeah, I actually went there and I actually used that example. So yeah, I very much imagine and I very much imagine that they would actually join up and that they would go in uh, and they would go in and step by step mitigate the damage that the damage that the Deadly Alliance will have wrought over the will have wrought over the uh, over the various realms. There is one additional ally I think they would gain. That would be Sindel or Kitana. Whichever one does actually get whichever one does actually get chosen. I imagine would also join Order Realm because by the end of the game, I think Order Realm would potentially establish a uh, could potentially establish that could potentially establish a an alliance with the Homeworld Defense Initiative, or rather the Home Realm Defense Initiative, in such a way, in such a way as to become uh, the primary peacekeeping force between the realms, thereby also making Shujinko potentially they're potentially also setting up Shujinko as a protagonist for the for the future of this series. However, the one that doesn't go will stay ruler of Edenia, and I am somewhat debating as to who should go join the forces of Order Realm. As I imagine, Kitana would be a fitting choice, given that Sindel is currently the queen and she has plenty to atone for. But then again, I could also imagine her trying to atone for the potentially trying to atone within the Order Realm forces, and thereby leaving Katana as as the leader of Edenia. That's just one, that's just one, something to consider. Uh, when it comes to the conclusion, I do very much see Scorpion defeating. I do very much see Scorpion defeating Quan Chi, as has been, as will have been set up. As for, maybe even, Sonya, John, or maybe Johnny Cage or Jax, uh, taking down Kano, potentially with a he's too dangerous to be kept alive kind of, kind of development. But I do still want to give Shujinko a more sizable role here, like give him because if he is supposed to be the protagonist of the series going forward, he has to prove himself. He has to prove himself in that capacity. So I imagine I imagine he could potentially be the guy who defeats most of the major villains of this game. That could that could be Kentaro. That could be that could be Melina herself if she's trying to make another pull for Khan, or that could be Ermac if he's trying to make his move. But it definitely has to be Shang Tsung. I think because I think that would make for as I think that would really as I think that is a solid way to cement that is a solid way to cement him as the new protagonist. Obviously, it would be after another situation akin to the one Liu Kang has come against, where where the bad guys stack the odds in their favor and yet still lose, because that was what Kung Lao was able to do, and that is what Shujinko would also have to do to cement his position. As for what will have happened to Kung Lao over the course of this game, and what will happen and what his role in the future will be, well, that is really a mystery to be addressed in some other game. some other game that I may or may not, more likely may not talk about. For now, I would like to say thank you for your attention. If you've enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the concept of remaking the Mortal Kombat games, or to my personal idea of what a remake would actually entail, well, that is what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then, please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I primarily talk about the print medium and selected works therein. So if that sounds like it could be of interest to you, then I suggest you go ahead and check it out. If, however, you want to hear my thoughts on a variety of other topics, well, then I suggest you stay on this channel, where aside from pitches for video game remakes, I also do video game reviews, and I also do pitches and remakes for television and cinema as well, alongside videos on a variety of other topics. So if any of that sounds like it could catch your attention, I suggest you check out my channel and see for yourself. If, however, none of what I've said sounds like it could be of interest to you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, I have been the One Take Man.